Hello, and today, it's MooseMuffins here, and today we'll be talking about the history of China. Alright? The history of China. It's an interesting topic. China, one, if not many, ancient civilizations that still exist today. There's not many that still exist. I mean, there's still some that exist, but mostly they either vanish or transform into something new. So let's start. Discover the over 3,000-year history of China, a brave history with a China history timeline and introductions to the dynasties and periods. China is one of the world's four ancient civilizations and the written history of China dates back to the Shang Dynasty, circa 1600 to 1046 BCE, over 3,000 years ago. Here, we've outlined the history of China's history in a basic introduction, and I hope you have a good overview of it. So, before the Shang Dynasty, it was mostly mythical, like myth and prehistoric, per se. And evidence-wise, not much, but every year we uncover new. So yeah, prehistoric China. Prehistoric China, of course, is up to about the 1600 BCE. But this is where we cover the Shang Dynasty. The Shang Dynasty was a semi-mystical dynasty that lasted from 2070 to 1600 BCE. It was possibly the first dynasty in ancient China. It's generally believed that the Shang Dynasty, consisted of several clans living along the Yellow River. Most of the evidence of the Shang Dynasty, including its name, is perhaps just a legend, but you never know. I mean, where did the Shang come from? They were more warlike. There was a Bronze Age. The Yellow River civilization at this time at Erleto in Henan. However, artifacts don't show conclusively that this was the Shang Dynasty of later reigns. Now, we'll cover the actual history of ancient China from 1600 to 221 BCE. Chinese civilization began along the Yellow River in the Shang era and spread from where Bronze Age culture reached its peak. Then, traditional Chinese philosophies such as Confucianism and Taoism developed in the feudal Zhou dynasty era. As China expands its territory and population, ancient China finally fractured into warring states for 200 years, and its reunification marked the start of the Imperial China Age. Now, you might be thinking, isn't China the oldest country still alive? Well, you might be right, but you're also wrong. Technically, Chinese culture and civilization began a long time ago, but technically it was ancient Japan that first coined that it was a country and a nation before China. And you might be thinking, well, why? Why? Well, obviously, Japanese cultures started a while back, even though it was an island. Like, think of Japan as North America. It used to be attached to the mainland, but then it detached to an island. The people of the island can no longer, or probably won't, go back to the mainland. And that's what Japan is. Right. The Shang Dynasty. From 1600 to 1046 BCE, the Shang Dynasty was the first to have historical records remaining. Many bronze objects and jade articles, which date back to 1600 BCE, have been found to support these early ecological records. Also, considered oracle bones was found. Inscriptions on animal bones had pictographic characters, which will become modern Chinese. Next dynasty is the Zhou dynasty. The Zhou dynasty was the dynasty after the Shang. But you may be like, well, isn't it divine so that the dynasty can last? Yeah, but obviously the Zhao kind of created mandated heaven, which states that if there was something bad happening, like flood, famine, or peasant uprisings, certainly somebody have to kick out the current old dynasty and replace it to a new, fresh dynasty that emphasizes on the people and, well, the good and progress, like Shang. After the Shang era, the larger Zhao era territory was divided by a network of feudal states and ruled over by kings. You see, before the Qin Dynasty, um, well, there was an emperor, but he did not have that much power. The only power he had was wealth and, well, recognition from the other kings who controlled the feudal states, which, city states, The emperor had little to no political power or militaristic strength. It was the kings. This is how the war staged with them. The king of Zhao only had direct control over a small portion of the realm and could receive tribute from the feudal states. Here's the problem. If the feudal states don't recognize the emperor, is he really the emperor? Well, by him, yeah, but no. So, the first part of the Zhao Dynasty was called the Western Zhao. It lasted for a good amount of time, maybe around 300 years. It was a fairly peaceful time, but after 770 BCE, the Zhao king lost his authority and 7 prominent states emerged. This era was divided into 3 periods. The Western Zhao Dynasty, of course, that's what we mentioned. The Spring and Autumn period, the period where most philosophers were born and both died. Last one being Sun Tzu, Sun Tzu, and the Warring States period, which, well, this was the last one. Many major philosophies and religions emerged during the time, such as Confucianism and Taoism, which would later become very important in Chinese culture. Imperial China. This, big time, like this is basically the bulk of Chinese history. It lasted from 221 BCE to 1912, current era. It was one of the biggest dynasties. The Qin Dynasty, and well, the Qin Dynasty. It was the first emperor with absolute power, an absolute monarchy, unlike the previous emperors before him. This guy had all strength. Like, if he didn't like you, you're gonna die. They don't really have the power to do anything. Because if they do anything, they're gonna die as well. Okay. Zhang was the first to use the title of emperor in China. Well, I guess everybody else called him king. But he and his Qin states unified China by conquering the other foreign states. He ruled with iron fist. Zhang centralized the power of the empire after he took the throne and set up a system of laws. He standardized everything. His, political views is legalism. Everything is standardized, standardized. Like literally, nothing, everything. Standardized, written language, standardized, okay? Yeah. The Qin Dynasty was the first and shortest dynasty. It only lasted for 14 years. So literally, if you were born at the start of the dynasty, then when the dynasty fell, you'll probably be in your teens. It was famous for great building projects such as the Great Wall and the Terracotta Army. Now, when you think about it, the Great Wall when we're mentioning for the Qin Dynasty, sure, it may be the Great Wall, but it's not the Great Wall that we see today. That's the one rebuilt by the Ming. Because, walls can't last forever. During the later periods of the Qin Dynasty, Liu Bang, a peasant leader, overthrew the unpopular Qin regime and established the Han Dynasty. So, next video, I'll be mentioning the Han Dynasty and the rest. So, tune in next time for the Han Dynasty and what will happen to the rest of China's imperial era. This was MooseMuffins here. Have